she was. I think of a Jamaica girl doing that, just singing. She was she say coolie boy, you know thing. In this paradise.
For now.
To look fast, by not time now. You ready there?
Yeah, man. In this paradise. Don't get stuck on the shelf.
Broadcasting from
Kyle, how are you, nephew?
Street, Port of Spain. This is radio you can watch. Power 102, empowering you.
We won't open your line until I tell you.
Eh? Okay.
Hey, Robert, how are you?
Okay, cool.
Thanks for the call, I appreciate it.
With the Doctor of Sex, Dr. Raj.
Hi, this is Dr. Raj. I am on Power 102 with Sexplosion and the Angels. It will be exciting once again.
Sexplosion with the Angels.
Wednesdays and Fridays from 9 p.m. on Power 102, empowering you.
Trinidad is fine.
Well, thank you for staying here with us on Power 102.1 FM and a very special nighttime greetings to you. Special thanks as always to my daddy, kicking off our evening into live nighttime programming here on Power 102.1 FM. Also a very special thanks as always to Auntie Norma and the crew, Jeremiah Ray Braffett, with Men in Mind. Well, taking our time, it's now 2 minutes after 9 o'clock, and we do welcome you into Trinidad and Tobago #1 nighttime program when it comes to sex education. Sexplosion on Power 2.1 FM with Sexologist, your host, Dr. Raj Ramnanan of Total Image and the Adult Therapy Center out at St. Augustine. And a very special good evening to you, my brother. You look fit and fine. You look
Pleasant good evening to you.
Yeah, how are you today?
Pleasant good evening to all the viewers on social media. For those of you on our app on www.power102fm.com. For those of you who don't have the app as yet, it's Power 102 Trinidad, Power 102 FM in Trinidad. Download the app so you can tune into Power 102 anytime because it's the #1 station.
Yeah,
It is the #1 station in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes, we're giving you a little bit of everything.
For talk, you get all your information right here. Good evening, Rafia. How are you, my good friend? Robert, I see Robert told me that he has one of my fan there, Miss Iran. I don't want to mispronounce the person's name, so let me take a look at her name. Miss Iran, who is listening to the program. Pleasant good evening to you. We hope you enjoy the program. Sarah Suhali or Suheli, S-O-H-E-L-L-I, Sarah Suheli, wherever you are. Robert, I have no idea where you are. My good friend Robert Tidy. Whatever part of the world you are, pleasant good evening to you, pleasant good morning to you, wherever you are. And my phone number again for those of you who want to text in to send your messages directly into the studio. It is my personal phone number. It's 868-740-1961. That number again is 868-740-1961. Now, I sent out a broadcast earlier today to indicate to the listeners and the viewers that I am going to speak about Dr. Raj and Total Image. Okay. And I'll tell you why. You know, sometimes you take things for granted.
Yeah.
You actually take things for granted, and you know that you've been on the air for 18 years, going on 18 years, and you expect that people know about you and they know who you are. But of course, we have new listeners, new viewers and whatnot, and they may not know the background to Dr. Raj. They may just know Dr. Raj is a person on radio and they think it's a character, Dr. Raj. It's not a sobriquet, it's not a character. Yeah. It's my qualification. So I had a conversation with a very good friend of mine, one of our national cricketers. He came to see me yesterday and we were talking about things in general. His sister, who is a good friend of mine, I asked about her and then he told me some things and I started to talk about myself. And he was like, Raj, I never know these things about you. What you're telling me there is news. And upon reflection, I realized that, hey, it is true. There are lots of persons who listen to this program and think it's just about sex, sex, and sex. Well, the name Sexplosion came about because I wanted to blow the myth out of sex. And I wanted the whole thing about this whole program about sex and sex education to be worldwide, for people to understand that it is not a myopic view, it is a very broad-based view of things that are sexual. But what's my background? Where did I come from? How did I end up here? Who am I? And what is Total Image all about? So I decided this evening I'm going to dedicate this entire program to explaining to the listeners out there about Total Image, about Dr. Raj, where I came from, where I started this, how I started this. Oh, Robert, you're in Miami. Oh, Miami? I just came from Miami, my friend. Oh, my God. My son was in Miami today. So, when you have persons listening to a program and they're getting information, and again, this program is about education and information. Of course, there's a bit of entertainment, but it's about education and information. And I challenge anyone out there, when I put information out there, I challenge you to prove me wrong. And the reason I do that, I've been doing that for the last 18 years, is to tell you whatever information we put out there. I have a responsibility to my listeners. We have a responsibility to the studio. I have a responsibility to myself. I must put out accurate information out there. So when I talk about things that are sexual in nature, it is always accurate information. That's one. Two, the education part of it is very important, because we've been educating the young minds of Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean for the longest while. We had a program on afternoons called the Sex Drive.
Yeah, right.
We had programs where I used to go to high schools and whatnot to talk about things that are sexual. And I have been to many forums, and all because of fans of the program who have heard about me, and they asked me to come and do a representation, do a presentation of not only what the program is all about, but my works. So let's start at the beginning, because that's the best place to start.
Yeah, right.
11 and a half years old, now going into high school, I came up with the bright idea that I must study sex. Not because sex was just a fascination, it's something that you wanted to engage in, but I was fascinated about the education behind sex, the things that were the nitty-gritty, the behind information about sex. So at 11 years, 4 months of age, now entering high school, I decided that I was going to absorb as much information as possible on things that are sexual. Of course, one of the subjects that you were taught at that time was something called biology, not human and social biology, but biology. But there was a human and social aspect of biology. So I was fascinated with this. I continued my studies. I went to the library. I got information. I downloaded information in my mind from the books, because in those days they didn't have computers. And I was absorbing all sexual information like a sponge. While I was in high school, I decided to read a book called the Kama Sutra. Now, this is the actual Kama Sutra, not this crap that they have written all over the place now. And it was a tough book to read. I couldn't understand anything in it, because the way it was written, and I thought it was a book about sex.
Yeah.
But it was not. It was instructions on love, instructions on you being a good lover, instructions on you understanding the human body as it is, but not only your body, but the opposite sex body, so that you are able to have that level of communication and develop that. I think it was my third reading when I was in Form 3. I really got a grasp of it. And I said, oh my God, this is what I've been missing all along. And then I started to read books by an author called Xavier Hollander. The Happy Hooker was the first book I read.
Yeah.
And there was a wealth of knowledge, taking away the sexual act and whatnot, writing about that. But there was a wealth of knowledge in those books. And The Better Part of a Man, that was another book that she wrote. And all the books that she wrote, I read every one, and I reread it. And I was gathering information in my mind, and I started to write papers while I was in school now and sell it. I also used to sell sex stuff, which was illegal at that time. It still is illegal, but it was illegal to do that. And I was doing that in high school because I saw a way of making money also. Other guys were engaging in selling drugs and whatever else, but I was engaging in selling this. And after high school, I went immediately into university. I didn't go into and do Form 6. I didn't do upper level and A levels and whatnot. I didn't believe in that. I think it was a waste of 2 years. I went straight into university, wrote the entrance exam for university, and got into university. And my first degree was actually in accounting, but I decided to study sex on the side. And while doing so, I got more and more information, and I was best building a wealth of information. My personal life was transforming also. I had the backings of someone who was very close to me. She told me, she said, you know, you're not ready for marriage. Go and study and come back. I'll be waiting for you. And which she did. And I had all these positive aspects in my life, but you couldn't tell your parents you were going to study sex. And persons couldn't understand that this is what you wanted to study, as opposed to those who wanted to be doctors and lawyers and engineers and all those other things. I did not want to be that. I wanted to be someone who was studying sex. So I got into that mode of studying things that of a sexual nature and absorbing as much information as possible. And my passion for reading, I think, is one of the things that led me to do a lot of work when it comes to things of a sexual nature, and understanding and getting all that education and information. I got involved in the porn industry while I was in the US. I had a very good friend, Robin Court, who was also heavily involved in those things, and he introduced me to certain people. And that helped me to mold and develop another part of me, another part of my psyche. And when I started to put all these things together, I realized that sex is not just a one-dimensional thing. It's so multi-dimensional that it's unbelievable. So I really got into it in a hardcore kind of way, that this is what I really want to do in life. Lo and behold, after I graduated university, well, while in university, I got in a serious accident and I was paralyzed from my neck down. And I overheard one doctor telling another doctor that he's not going to walk out of here. You know, he'll be like this for the rest of his life. And that gave me a determination that I don't know where I got the strength from or whatever, but I walked out of that hospital in pain, catch my tail. But I was determined that I was not going to be gurneyed out of there. I was going to walk on my own 2 feet. And with that determination, I did that. I met a very good doctor, how could I forget his name? Yeah, I met a very great doctor, and he took care of me. And he told me, he said, don't ever let anyone put a knife on your back. He said they will want to, but don't ever let anyone do that. During that course of treatment, I remember that I had 99 x-rays taken out of my back, my lower back, my spine, 99 x-rays. And it's something that really gave me some challenges in life. It really gave me some challenges in life, that I had all these x-rays taken out of me and had to do serious work on my back to get to where I was, to get back to be normal, gym work and whatnot. But I always loved the gym. I had a passion for the gym. So 2 things I wanted to be in life. From the early age of 11 years, I wanted to have the best gym in Trinidad and Tobago, and I wanted to study sex. That was 2 passions that was driving me. So while I was in university, I started to play American football. I went to the gym. I was a skinny guy, but I was determined that that's what I want to do. And I started to work out at a gym called Apollo Gym in Davie, Florida. And I made a lot of friends there, and things were going great. Then I got in the accident and I had to go and do rehabilitation work, which I also did at Apollo Gym. So here I am, 1984. I knew I promised my wife the first day I met her, which was on the 7th of October 1974, that 10 years from today I'll marry you. Not knowing where that came into my head, but I knew I had to get married to her. Came back home with the intention of getting married, and you know, we are Hindus, practicing Hindu Sanatanists. Went to my godfather and asked him about, you know, tell him that I want to get married. And before he opened the book to check our patra, I told him I'll tell you the date. And I did tell him the date. I said it will be 7th of October 1984. And when he checked everything and he realized he got Gantabai, he said, how did you know that day? I said, well, 10 years ago, on that day, I told her 10 years from today I'll marry you, and I couldn't be lying to her. So lo and behold, I got married, and unfortunately, 3 weeks after, on the 31st of October 1984, I got into another accident, and that paralyzed me again. So here I was bedridden 3 weeks after my wedding, and I'm lying there in a state paralyzed from my neck down and couldn't move. And I had a cousin who used to literally come and pick me up like a baby and take me anywhere I needed to go and whatnot. And he's someone I love to death. I love this guy tremendously. And that being in bed for those months was really something that shook me up inside. I knew this was not my destiny. I knew this couldn't have been my destiny, and I know I had more to offer. And I realized that I had to do something about this. Went to many doctors. They wanted to experiment on my back. They wanted to cut. They wanted to go into my spine and whatnot. And I always remember the words of my doctor, and he told me, he said, "Don't ever let someone put a knife on your back." And that resonated in my mind. And eventually, I got back to his practice, and a couple of months after, I was walking again. Well, not fully recovered, but walking. But from my first accident in the US, I got compensated from that. And because of the compensation, I got some money, and I went to the guy who owned Apollo Gym. I used to always make joke with him. I used to go and say, "Dan, one day I'll buy your gym, you know." And he'd say, "Yes, man," and you'll come on your flying carpet and take it out of here. Because he always thought we used to be from this Middle Eastern country and whatnot. So I went to him, this was in 1985, and I said, "Dan, how much would you sell this gym for?" So he looked around, and he called a price. I said, "And that's your final price, right?" He said, "Yeah, that's what I'll take for this gym." And I handed him a check. And he looked at me, and he said, "What's this for?" I said, "I just bought your gym." He said, "I didn't tell you I was selling it." I said, "Well, I asked you how much you will sell it for, and you gave me a price." He said, "Well, what's the extra money for?" Because I made it as if that's for you to pack everything up, stick it into a container, and come in, and for you to come to Trinidad and set it up. Which he did. And that was that. The gym was set up in Trinidad, and 1985 to 1992, we ruled the roost. We created the best bodybuilders in the country. We won every competition. I trained all the sportsmen in cricket, football, boxing, cycling, you name it. They came to me for training. And we made the best of the best in the country. And the great Brian Lara trained by me. Dwight York, Latapi, they all came by me. And we had a good thing going. Then there was a transformation. You know, we had the 1990 coup that kind of killed business and whatnot, and things went downstream from there. And so I got out of the gym business eventually, and I was still studying sex. And I recall that even with dealing with sexual toys and whatnot, I used to sell those things out of the trunk of my car. I used to go to West Mooring area. I had a friend there, and she would take me to people's place and whatnot, and we would do business. And I will take up orders and bring in stuff and whatnot, and that is what I did. And while I had the gym, I always had a passion about swingers lifestyle and whatnot, and that continued with me when I came back. Continued with the Swingers Club in Trinidad, had advertisement in the papers, of course, coded words and whatnot, and we went on with that, and eventually the Swingers Club was born in 1992. And I'm talking about publicly. Privately, it was there privately, and then publicly we went in 1992. And here we were, and when I say we, there were people who were assisting me. And when I told my wife I wanted to make sex a business, she said, you have my blessings and you have my back end, because that's what you do best. And my two best friends, Kishore and Dar, I told them about it also, because I said, I'm getting involved in this thing and I want to do sex as well. Civilize what you are accustomed to, and that's who you are. Nothing's going to change that. When you were in high school, the first sex book we ever see was from you. Anything to deal with sex, any question people wanted to answer, truthful answer, they'll come to you. And I remember on the block, one day, you know, when you grow up in a village environment, you have something called the block, where a crossroad intersection, where the guys will get together in the afternoon and sit on the culvert and play little games and whatnot, racing and all that. And the guys, you'll hear them talking about things of a sexual, the older guys that were there. And these are guys who are 11 years older than us and whatnot, and younger, 11 come down. And you're listening to them, but you realize that, hey, some of the things they're telling you were just made up. It wasn't real. And I always promise myself that when people ask me questions about things that are sexual, it will always be a correct and truthful answer. I promise myself that. I had one friend boy, Sundar Bala, who used to mentor me and teach me things and whatnot with whatever little knowledge he had. He was about 3.5 years older than I was. And not was, he is. And we're still friends to this day. All the friends who I grew up with on the block, and we're still friends today, and we're tight. We're tight like that because that's how we grew up. We grew up like that. But the information I was getting was not the correct information, and I realized that. And I said, I have to change that. I have to change the way Trinidadians just talk about things. If you jog too much, your hair will grow out of your hand, or you'll go blind. Up to recently, up to this week, a guy told me that. He said, I stopped jogging because I'm afraid I get blind.
That was a favorite line. The old generation.
But there was so much myth.
Yeah.
There was so much myth about sex. And there are so much myth out there about sex that sometimes you don't know what's real and what is not real. That's why this program has been so successful for all these years, because we give truthful, correct information. And the information must be correct. I don't like false news. I don't like people making up something to aggrandize themselves. I don't believe that a person should be egotistical, that the information that they're giving is false.
Okay. Yeah,
It must always be something rooted in the truth.
On point.
It must be on point. So when someone asks you a question, you must be able to give them that answer that they can take it to the bank. And for years we've been giving that answer on this program. Now, of course, I'm married, 1984. Paralyzed for a while, whatever. And I was trying to have a child. And I couldn't. And there were doctors who were taking advantage of that. I remember one guy very clearly in my mind, and he was taking advantage of it. And the person who were talking about in vitro, and in those days it's called a test tube baby and whatnot. And they were making a ton load of money out of me. Until I met one doctor, Malcolm Adams, at UE Medical Center, but at the General Hospital. And he looked at me and he said, "Young man, I'll fix you. But I want you to study this. I want you to really look into this." And after seeing him, maybe about 6 to 8 months after seeing him, my wife got pregnant. We had our first baby in 1988. My daughter is now 30 years of age. And I continue with educating myself along those lines. Now, I remember I'm involved in the gym. So we never use drugs in the gym. That's one thing I want to make very clear. We never use steroids. My bodybuilders were all trained naturally. I made sure of that they were trained naturally. Even I was the first person, the very first person to have a drug-tested event in Trinidad, where blood was drawn from all the athletes.
Yeah.
It was sent to Chicago on a flight, an overnight flight. In those days, didn't have courier service and whatnot.
No.
It was sent on an overnight flight to Chicago, and before the actual competition took place, we had the result came back to Trinidad, which was 5 days after. And Dr. Bob Goldman, the best ever. And here we were having the first drug-tested event. And the reason why I had that first drug-tested event in Trinidad is because everyone would accuse me of drugging my bodybuilders. But we would go and compete anywhere in the world, and my bodybuilders would come out on top. And no one would ever be caught with drugs because they weren't using drugs. They were using natural techniques, things that I learned from reading and also following bodybuilders. And I used to go to all these seminars and whatnot. I meet Tom Platz and Arnold Schwarzenegger and all these top bodybuilders. I met them, and you will listen to them. Now, of course, those were bodybuilders who did use drugs, but they developed their own techniques. Tom Platz, one of his legs was 32 inches. That was the size of his leg off season. Competition was 29, 30 inches. Talking about legs, Mr. Legs. When he walked, it was like two men walking at the same time, the legs. But it was fascinating, and it's something that I loved, and I got heavily involved in it, but I did a lot of studies when it came to that. So I used to only use natural ways of building my bodybuilders, but also psychology. We used to win our competition before we go on stage. The psychology of bodybuilding, which I learned from Arnold Schwarzenegger, because he used psychology before he went on stage. That's how he beat Sergio Oliveira. That's how we beat Lou Ferrigno, with psychology, playing on the person's mind. And when you read about the psychological effect, or in sports especially, because there are lots of sportsmen out there who don't have the right psyche when they go out to play. They don't have that. They have the determination, they may have the skill, but they don't have the psychology behind it. And I realized that, hey, this is a big part of this thing. And we used to win our competition before we go on stage. Our bodybuilders used to win because they used to see us doing all kind of crazy thing backstage and say, well, how the hell they could be doing that and winning? But there was a trick to it. And there was a reason behind it. There were things that my bodybuilders would do before they go on stage that will make them look better than the other bodybuilders. Even a simple thing as drinking wine. But you got to know what kind of wine and how to do it.
Yes, well, I would hope so.
Of course.
Yeah. So,
of course. There was a psychology behind it. So when the other bodybuilders saw us doing that, they were beaten before they went on stage because they're like, well, like them fellas have something special, boys. A magic they're doing I can't how I could beat him. He looking red. All of a sudden his veins popping out. How could I beat him? And there I was at the side of the gym, always directing the bodybuilders what to do, where you should stand, how you should stand. You know, and we would cut people's tail. We used to go with a pickup to bring back trophies. And it was a passion because it was all about not me, but my bodybuilders doing well, my athletes and whoever is training under me to do well. They must excel, they must be the best. Every one of them. And whatever they were doing. And I knew I had a little part to play in that, and I wanted to play that part, and I wanted to show them that, hey, there is another aspect of success. Apart from your skill. You can't teach people skill, you know.
no,
You're born with it.
You have to born here.
You have that skill. You develop your skill.
You don't gain
Talent, you're born with that. I mean, talent is permanent. You watch Brian Lara bat at 15 and you know he was going to be the greatest. I knew that from the time I saw him bat the first time. I said, that is the greatest batsman I'll ever see. And when Brian came back from playing in Canada with Sachin Tendulkar, I asked him about Sachin Tendulkar and he told me that's the greatest thing he ever see. So there and then I realized the friendship, and I also realized that you can't compare one with the other. And you can't compare one era with the other era. You can't compare Vivian Richards with Brian Lara and Brian Lara with Vivian. You can't do that.
Two different
and
eras altogether.
even recently I had a very long conversation with Sir Garfield Sobers. I took him for dinner one night for his birthday. And we were talking cricket, and we were talking passionately about it. And he was talking about his life in cricket. And even Gordon Greenwich turned to me and he said, Raj, you brought something out in Sir Garfield that I have not seen. I have not seen him open up and talk about cricket like that.
Well, I know you're very close with Gordon Greenwich.
Yeah, so, but again, that affiliation you had
that close, yes.
and that closeness, it took you places, and you were able to actually do things with these individuals. So that's one aspect of my life. But then again, the business part of it always was there. I grew up in business. I was telling somebody today, my grandmother used to sell tomatoes on the side of the road. Because I was telling them about how my wife planted some tomatoes on the behind, and it's plentiful. So friends say, what you going to do, set up a stall? I said, there's nothing wrong with that. Because my grandfather used to sell on the side of the road, and my grandmother used to sell on the side of the road. That's where we came from. I'm not ashamed of that. And I could do it. It's not a problem to do it. I might have some challenges because I don't know the rudiments of it, but I'll learn it very quickly. It's in my blood.
Oh,
it is in my blood.
You bred it for that.
Yes, my family were all in the agrarian society. My grandfather had cocoa estate, coffee estate, and bananas. Cocoa, coffee, citrus, and bananas and mangoes. He had one estate like that, and my nana and nanny, they had rice, edos, cane, okra, peppers. They had that type of planting. So I grew up in both. So I had an idea about both.
Yeah, you had the feel for it.
I had the feel for it. But it's not something I will ever watch someone and laugh or think negatively about it, because I know where I come from and I don't throw that aside. So I was making a joke and telling the person about it. I said I could go back to doing that because I know what it is like. I know the challenges associated with it, and I know what that life is about. So here I am, wanting to have a child, meeting Dr. Malcolm Adams. He taught me certain things and showed me certain things, and he wasn't just treating me as a patient, and I realized that. And he was pushing me towards learning about this thing, and I started to learn and learn and learn, and got into a mode of just reading. Always enjoy reading, so reading was always a passion. So it was no big deal for me to go and do, and in those days we were talking about library research and reading. So I used to buy a lot of books, and I have books, countless books. Like sometimes someone will come into my office and they'll see I have one bookcase filled with books, and they say, you have read all those books? I say, every single one. And not once but twice. And that's just one library. I have a library at home. I have one in my private office. I have libraries. of books, and my wife loved to read, so we grew up reading.
Well, I know
and reading is something that you have to have a passion for. Even now, I read every single day. Just Monday, someone was asking me, say, how do you have all this knowledge about all these different things? Because any conversation that comes up, I will give you information. I'll give you correct information. I like trivia also, so I'll read a lot of trivia. I love to read trivia. I like trivia too bad because it gives you so much more information about things. And he said, where do you get time to read? I said, I don't know. I don't know. I can't answer that. But I'll tell you, when I'm having my breakfast, the newspaper is open in front of me. I can't start my day off without a newspaper. I have to read every newspaper every day. Every day. I must. And if I see something, I'll go into the world news to find out more about it. And so that goes on and on and on. When I graduated from the gym life into Behind the Green Door, which was the first sex shop that opened in Trinidad, and this was open on Arapita Avenue before it was the Avenue.
Yeah.
Upstairs, corner of Lewis and Arapita Avenue, Lewis Street and Arapita Avenue, upstairs, Rambaran Drugs. I was still writing program for guys. I wrote a program for a guy, and he came second in Mr. Trinidad and Tobago, and I trained him and whatnot. And but my passion for that kind of waned, and I wasn't as passionate about bodybuilding and those things. I was more passionate about the sex part of it. And I started to develop that. So after the Behind the Green Door opened up, that's when the Archangel came into my life, and she was there with me head on head. And we started to develop the business. We moved from there, we moved to Tragrit Road. And from Tragrit Road, we moved to Bengal Street. And from Bengal Street, we moved to St. Augustine. And that's where the business started to develop into what it is today, the massage parlor, where we do massages and whatnot, sensual and therapeutic massages. I created most of the names that you see now with massages, body to body and all them things. I created those names. Those names did not exist. Those names did not exist before 1992, I could tell you that. Nobody knew about those names. I created those names. And people started to use it long after me. But if you check back the histories and you check back the advertisement on newspaper and whatnot, you'll see those were the words that I was using in 1992. No one else were using those names. As a matter of fact, there were no such massage parlor. If you want a massage, you had to go to Long Circular Mall or one of those places to get a professional massage done. And it started to bloom from there. And you know, there's a saying that the highest form of flattery is when someone tried to imitate you, and there were lots of imitators coming along trying to imitate everything that I was doing. I was still studying. I did not have my PhD yet, and I had the opportunity, the golden opportunity, because of Devant Maharaj, Marcel Mahabir, Melissa Sohan, and Ingrid Isaac, to be on radio. And I was given that opportunity. And here, after being given that opportunity, I told them, I said I needed permission from two persons. And they were like, your wife and who? I said, my daughter and my wife. Because my daughter was now 12 going on 13, and she was now in high school, so I had to get her permission because this will impact on her life. And when I told her this is what I want to do, she said, Dad, that's who you are, because I never lied to my children either. That's another thing. A lot of parents, they lie to their children. They don't tell their children the truth. They don't share with their children what they're doing. They keep things a secret, and when they mark bus, they are ashamed because they never let their children know. But I always made sure my children knew who I was, what I was doing, and of course my wife was always informed. So there was nothing that anybody could come behind my back and tell her that she was not informed of it. Therefore, whoever was trying anything or whatever, it was, hey, this guy have already told me this, what you trying to tell me?
Yeah.
You can't tell me anything different because he already told me what it is. So that part of the business developed, and while I was on Arapita Avenue, Behind the Green Door, I was still writing programs, and I was helping people with sexual dysfunction, because there was a lot that I was learning. I wasn't qualified as yet, but I was helping them. And I took courses, and I did my whatever I had to do, and I was educating myself and making myself a better person when it comes to that treatment. I opened the clinic, and then soon after opening the clinic, I think about a year after opening the clinic was opened in 1999. There were other things that I did in between business-wise and whatnot, but those were my passion, and that's what I stuck to. And 2001, radio and whatnot started to talk about things that were sexual and give all the information and whatnot, and things were building. And I was educated myself. I was doing exams, I was flying away, I was doing what I had to do, constantly upgrading myself. And I think, I can't remember what year I got my PhD. Sometimes it slips me, I think 2004. But I was on radio now, and people used to call me doctor on radio, and I'll say, don't do that because I'm not a doctor, I'm not qualified in that area. Please don't call me Dr. Raj. When I did get my PhD, I said, no, you can. But the PhD is not the important factor. The important factor is education. I always talk, when I go and do my lectures and whatnot, I instill in the children who I speak to, or the young adults that I speak to, that education is what takes you where you want to go. And I'm not talking about education in terms of book learning. You know, let's use an example. You are a DJ and you are a radio personality, and if you don't constantly educate yourself about the things that are happening in the world, with technology, with music, with the different genres of music, you're going to be left behind.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what education is about, always educating yourself and making yourself a better individual. And of course, I was always rooted in my religious belief, and I always use that as something to propel me forward. As a practicing Sanatanist Hindu, that's what I did. And the things that I speak about and whatnot, one of the greatest books given to humanity, the Kama Sutra, came from the Sanatanists. It came from Hinduism. It's not a book that was written on the side. It came directly from Lord Shiva. And when you started to look at the philosophy of religion, forget the practice and the rituals, but the philosophy. When you started to dwell into the philosophy of religion and got to understand the depth from which it came, it started to give me a better understanding of myself. And in so doing, I think it took away that egotistical thinking and brought me right down back to where I was and who I was. Because that's the way we grew up. We grew up in very humble beginnings in Sangre Grande. My parents were business people and whatnot. My father was a teacher, resigned in 1976. My mother had no primary school or high school education to talk about. Well, she didn't go to high school or primary school education, but I think she was more educated than my father, because every book he had to read for his university studies and whatnot, she read it too. She read it to the point that she could have written a paper for him. And I'm not kidding about that. So my educational background, as far as that was concerned, was from my mother also, who was not educated. And that's the funny part about it. She didn't even finish high school. And my grandfather, who never even stepped into a school door, I think was one of the most educated men I ever met. Because he had education in life.
Self-taught.
Self-taught. And I spent 14 glorious years of my life with him, very close with him, learning a lot from him about the practical side of life. So here I was, back, I think I came back down to earth after I got my PhD. Because I realized it was not just that PhD that was important, but it was helping humanity, dealing with people with their issues. So immediately upon doing that, one of the things and the challenges that I faced in life was the inability to have children. And that was a serious challenge for me. So when we come back from the break, we continue with it.
Nice, you're going good. 25 seconds. We're on the Sexplosion, boy.
As all we have 25 seconds?
Yeah, I didn't load up. How you're talking.
Wednesdays and Fridays from 9 p.m. on Power 102, empowering you. With the Doctor of Sex, Dr. Raj.
Hi, this is Dr. Raj. I am on Power 102 with Sexplosion and the Angel. It will be exciting once again.
Sexplosion with the Angels.
Wednesdays and Fridays from 9 p.m. on Power 102, empowering you.
We could throw in a question every now and then, and if something comes up.
No, but when you're talking, I just like if you mention something else, if it was like that or yeah.
Interviews with your favorite local Caribbean.
But when you're in a point time,
When I come here and I do an interview with you guys, it's always interesting. You feel relaxed. I feel like if I'm at home.
Mel, how are you?
The edges off and just have fun.
I said cheers to all the fans of soca. Turn the music loud. What do you think, boy? Everything good, man. Everything good. Everything is good, man.
Live at lunch.
This is the home I'm not leaving. I get the ultimate version. Everybody's this feeling. I just want to play myself.
Something fell.
Wash.
What was that?
Yeah, cool.
Let me start off by saying, Fortune Award winner.
Live at lunch.
Run the endorsement. What's going on? Greetings and salutations, everybody. This is Neo, and you're listening to Live at Lunch with Corey. And I'm doing it like a boss. Yeah, big boy.
Weekdays at 12:30 p.m. with Corey the Slick Pascal on Radio
Okay, that was for you, eh?
Power 102, empowering you. Now, wherever you are in Trinidad and Tobago or the world, the power of Power 102 FM is in your hand.
Uncle Mull.
Free Power 102 FM app on your iPhone or
Kingsley, how are you?
It's power to go. Wednesdays and Fridays from 9 p.m. on Power 102, empowering you. With the Doctor of Sex, Dr. Raj.
Hi, this is Dr. Raj. I am on
No calls yet, eh? Right.
It will be exciting.
Okay, let me finish with that presentation.
Wednesdays and Fridays from 9 p.m. on Power 102, empowering you.
Well, taking what time is now 19 minutes before 10 o'clock. You're listening to Sexplosion on Power 102.1 FM with your host, Dr. Raj Ramnanan of Total Image and the Adult Therapy Center out at St. Augustine. And I tell you, he's giving you a true life story of himself. So those of you who had doubt about what he's all about, this is the program for you to listen to and know all about the sexologist, Dr. Raj Ramnanan. Yes?
So here I am doing those things. I remember my first patient. To this day, I remember him clearly. Sometimes I go look for him. His name was Ashram. Very first patient. And this is outside of the gym, starting what I'm doing now, what my present occupation is all about. But I know what the challenges I went through, and I know the costs, how much it costs me to do that. As a matter of fact, it really paid toll on me financially. And then afterwards, the coup and that destroy business. So I honestly decided to do the things that were going to help couples and help people, not only in the realm of sex, sexuality, understanding each other. I never discriminated racially, financially, sexually with anyone. I have friends from all walks of life, from the first day I know myself to now.
You don't pick and choose.
I don't pick and choose friends. I believe in humanity. I have male and female friends. I have friends who, as I said, from day one, they're still my friends today. Doesn't matter if you're gay, straight, bisexual, whatever, lesbian, it does not matter to me. And that's where I wanted to do. I wanted to do that educational part of it, and I wanted people to be more open-minded. I'm not saying that you have to embrace it the way I do, but you have to be open-minded enough to understand that this is the way of the world. You have people from all walks of life. As a matter of fact, one of my best friends in university, she and I became friends because the first day I saw her, I asked her the question, and she was like, "You don't ask people those questions." I said, "I want to ask you because I think we are going to be good friends, and let me ask you to up front." And we spent an entire night speaking about that and understanding each other, and I ended up living with her. And it was great, fantastic. But like I said, education does not come from book alone. And my education came from interaction, from direct interaction, from observing. I observe a lot. I go to trade shows, I go to all kinds of things, and I observe behavior and patterns and whatnot. So these are the things that I incorporated into my life. I wasn't a great guy. I think I'm a much better human being now than I was when I got married. I think my wife helped to transform me and make me understand things much better than I do at that time. She totally understood who I was, and you know, she got flack from the family and she got flack from everybody else for my lifestyle and who I was.
So when she first mentioned it to her parents, that what you wanted to get involved with, what were their reaction towards her?
I never mentioned it to my parents. I kept it a secret until one day my mother told me, "Don't think I don't know what you're doing." And that's when I realized my mother has always been my best friend. You know, I grew up with my mother very closely.
But was it difficult for her to accept that the career that you wanted to get involved with?
No, and that's the funny part about it. My parents, who are Orthodox Hindu, practicing Hindus and whatnot, never restricted us with what we eat, what we do, where we go. If we wanted to go to church, we go to church. If we wanted to go and sing in the choir, we sang in the choir. We'll sing hymn at home if the neighbors next door are having their prayer session. I think you can't make noise. You know, you can't put on the TV loud. You can't play music loud. Have respect for other people's religion. Things that they won't eat, my mother would cook it for us. And she was like, if my children want to eat it, let them eat it. And my dad, I remember the first time I was going to Jamaica. I was going to Jamaica on camp. And of course, Boy Scouts and whatnot. This was the 6th Caribbean Jamboree in Jamaica, 1977. And I told him I wanted to go to Jamaica. And he said, no problem. I said, but Dad, if, you know, Boy Scouts and they cook all kind of thing. He said, well, whatever could stay in your stomach, let it stay right there. You eat whatever you could eat.
You mentioned a bit earlier on, a couple of minutes ago, that you first got involved with the sex thing on the avenue behind the green door.
Yes.
What gave you the drive? Because in those days, as you have rightfully said, when people mention the word sex, you know that was a
because I know
thing.
Trinidad needed to transform, and I knew that somebody had to do it, and I was the person to do it. That was my drive. That I was going to change the way Trinidad and Tobago thinks about sex. And the first step, which was to give the people what they want. People wanted sex toys and they wanted paraphernalia and different things to use. So why not? Why not get into the business of doing it? Of course, it was illegal, so you had challenges with customs and whatnot. Never with police, but always with customs. But I did what I had to do, and I will still continue to do what I have to do. Because at the end of the day, these are adults making choices for adults. I have never had a child come and buy something by me. In the 20-something years of doing business, I've never had a child come into my establishment to buy anything.
But I know you're strict about that.
I'm very strict about it.
I know about that. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, I'm very strict about that. As a matter of fact, parents, when they bring children, there's a waiting area for children.
Yeah.
Right? But this is who I am. I believe in sex education, and I believe that persons have a right to a choice. And at the end of the day, you make your choice according to what you think is best for you. It may not be the best choice, but if you think it's best for you, by all means, go ahead and do it. And I believe strongly in a person is being born a particular way and also groomed a particular way. I believe both. Because I know how human beings are, and I know conditioning, and I understand. Remember, I did not only study sex, I study sports. The psychology of sports, nutrition, human behavior. I study all those things. And in studying those things, you will not be myopic. I read the Bible. I went to Sunday classes. I used to sing in the choir. I love it. To this day, I love it. Right? I never see anything wrong with that. But I also saw the contradictions in it. I saw that.
The negativity.
I saw that.
Yeah.
And I see people even today during our debate on the LGBTQI thing. On all the programs today, that people were contradicting themselves and people were bringing religion into it, but it has nothing to do with religion. Why don't they get that into their head? You could preach religion how much you want. And I want everyone out there, if you get the chance, watch this movie, Come Sunday.
Come Sunday.
Come Sunday. It's on Netflix. Watch the movie. All of you who just be thumping your religious books and whatnot, watch that movie. Come Sunday. It will put some reality into your life. Some persons might switch off the TV before it finishes. I'll tell you that. I'm telling you that.
Yeah, it's not.
Some persons will say this is total crap, but it is not. It is not. Watch it. Understand the movie.
Okay.
It's a true story.
It is.
Oh, a true story. It's a true story. True story. True story.
Come Sunday.
That's the name of the movie. Well, watch it.
Yeah, Come Sunday.
I love watching movies because there are lots of education in movie also. Especially true story and the biographies and whatnot.
Yeah.
I watch a biographical show on Andre the Giant. He was always my favorite
Oh, yes,
wrestler.
as a matter of fact, I saw that sometime today, going through. Yeah.
You watch it?
No,
You should watch that movie. Boy, you'll cry.
No, I was watching
to
a
see what that
story,
man went through.
Yeah, well, I was watching the story that they had on him. It was written.
Yeah, but you should
what
watch
he
the
went
movie on
about
that. Oh my
about
God.
his drinking problems as well.
That man used to drink 106 beer in one night, you know.
Yeah.
And 5 bottles of wine after that, you know.
Yeah. It was.
But he wasn't so much a pain. You have to understand why too.
Yeah.
But anyway, I digress, but I want to get back. But as again, I said I love trivia. I love trivia. So anything with trivia, I love that.
in it.
And I used to always hate Hulk Hogan. I met Hulk Hogan on a flight from Miami to Tampa once. And I didn't talk to him. And I regret that now. Because I hated him. Because he beat Andre the Giant. But he didn't beat him. He didn't beat him. When he was telling his story, he cried. He said Andre the Giant could have knocked him out any minute. Andre the Giant actually told him what to do to beat him. To make him win. To pass the baton on. And I regretted not talking to Hulk Hogan now. Honestly, it's something I should have done.
As a matter of fact,
But I always dislike him for beating.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, he's a legend when it comes to wrestling.
Well, Andre the Giant won 15 years, and for 15 years he was the champion. And then he turned a bad guy, but they turned him into a bad guy in order for Hulk Hogan to come on top.
And they always
but it was a whole this guy wrote the script, on what he should do in the ring and all that, But anyway, let's not digress. Let's get back to the topic. So that's why I like trivia. Because trivia gives you the background story and it gives you the reality of the individual. Same thing with Arnold Schwarzenegger. When you read the book about Arnold Schwarzenegger and you read when the father had to bathe first, then the mother had to bathe after, then his elder brother had to bathe, and he was the last to bathe. And by the time he got to bathe with that one bucket of water, the bucket of water was black. And that's why that saying, carefully throw the baby out with the bath water. And they explained that because in Europe, that's how you bathe. So the baby was the last to bathe.
Yeah.
So you could have thrown the baby with the bath water because it's so black, you can't see the baby inside it. That's what trivia is all about. It gives you information. So with education comes that it is not only what you read in a book. I was very good at studies. I'm not boasting. I did a 4-year degree in 2 years and 3 months.
Yeah, but what you're saying there is really true, because I'll tell you something. If you read a paragraph on a book about a house, and I do read the same paragraph, we will never, if we have to build those houses, we will never build it the same way.
And it's the same thing about being an eyewitness. If you and I are an eyewitness to something, we'll never see the same thing.
No. So
we will never see the same thing.
No,
it depends the angle that you are standing at, the angle and I'm standing at, and you will see something totally different from me.
That's correct.
That's why eyewitness in court cases, I think you could blow it away.
Just to remind you once again that you are listening to Sexplosion on Power 102.1 FM with your host, Dr. Raj Ramdanan of Total Image and the Adult Therapy Center out at St. Augustine. And you're hearing his whole lifestyle here with us this evening. And anyone who had doubt as far as his qualifications, well, this is the forum for you to listen to Dr. Raj.
Yes, so here I am, having those experiences, those negative experiences, and having to deal with individuals who were also going through those very same things. So the clinic was established for that. The clinic was established to deal with those issues. So immediately you started to deal with individuals who were having those problems, those very same problems, and all the things associated with that. So that's what I tell you, the clinic, Total Image, and the Adult Therapy Center started to morph into something that were treating all these different things. Lots of individuals don't know that we treat women with polycystic ovaries, fibroids, endometriosis, unable to get pregnant. All these different things we're treating, and we're treating men for the very same things. And couples who are having difficulties with conceiving a child, that's something we started to deal with very seriously. And the success rate of that started to increase. And our success rate is in the high 90s for those who have gone through all what they're supposed to do and taking the entire treatment. And the reason for that is once you do what you're supposed to do, you are going to be successful. The individual will be successful. And again, it comes back to not the person who is doing it, but the person who is actually involved. Not me doing it to you or telling you what has to be done and all those things, but the persons who are involved and having these things done. And that's where the success came. And of course, with success, you get a lot of criticism. You get a lot of jealousy. You get a lot of envy. You have people out there who will want to bad talk you. They don't know anything about you. They don't know anything about your history. They don't know anything about where you come from. They don't know anything about you, but they want to pronounce on you. Those are idiots. You leave the idiots alone. Because with success comes that, you know. And you have to understand that the best batsman in the world will be criticized. And somebody will say he's the worst. The best footballer in the world, the very same thing. The best politician will be criticized.
Oh, yeah.
The best businessman will be criticized for something. Oh, he climb up on people's back to reach where he's going. But they don't understand that there's a process for anything. You see, success, I'll tell you something about success. Success of an individual depends on many factors. The strength of your conviction, how well you handle that, controlling your ego, that is another thing. Understanding your personality and how you deal with things. I remember when Darren Charles used to go and do shows throughout Trinidad and Tobago. And he had to sign an autograph. And sometimes he'll walk away and I'll stop him. I'll say, Darren, don't ever turn your back on a fan. Don't do that. Every person who came here and paid them money to see you, you make sure you sign something for them. I never use the word love. Because then they take it personally and they'll start stalking you.
They look at it from a different
Right,
angle.
from a different angle.
Yeah.
And I will make sure he signs every autograph of every person who is there. Because they came to see you. They didn't come to see me. They didn't come to see the person hosting the show. They came to see you. You are the celebrity. So you make sure every person who leaves here and go back home, go back with a smile. And that's one thing I instill in all my bodybuilders. Make sure you do that.
But I know you were involved in the adult entertainment business. But what drove you to open the adult therapy center?
That's what I told you, because I wanted to help people the way I was helped.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to make sure there were others out there who got what I got the treatment that I got, and got the assistance that I got. So somebody had to carry on that mantle. So as a sexologist, you could really, when you get into that realm of being a sexologist, it is not only dealing with the things of a sexual nature and whatnot. You're dealing with the psychology of the individual. You're dealing with environmental factors. You're dealing with physical factors. You're dealing with mental factors. You're dealing with a lot of different. You're even dealing with the interaction that the person has with their spouse.
Okay.
So many a times a client would come and say something, but their problem will not be totally medical. You'll realize that part of their problem comes with their interaction with their spouse, from the interaction with their spouse. How their spouse treat them when they have these problems, and whatever else is going on. So, like I say, with success, you know that on this radio program we have had people call and criticize and say negative things and whatnot.
Yeah. That is
But those things does not bother me, because you know why? My level of success, no one has ever been able to achieve that.
Okay.
Right? There will be somebody who come in after me to do it, and they will do it. Because every record that is set, there's somebody who is going to break it. I can assure you of that. And I don't think that I am so good that somebody is not going to come and do better. But until that person comes, I am the best. I am the best in the Caribbean. Anybody will tell you that who have been treated by me. One guy came to me recently, and he said, how long have I been here? I said, 7 months. And this is a guy 60-something years of age. Eh? And he said, in 7 months, you transform me? I said, yeah. I said, didn't I tell you between 6 and 9 months? He said, but in 7 months, I'm fixed. What do I need to do now? I said, nothing, you're done. You're done. I had another guy who's finished last Saturday, and he was like, so I have to stop coming here?
The nice thing about it is that, you know, there's so many people here in Trinidad and Tobago that is suffering from sexual dysfunctions. And there's no place, as far as I understand, other than...
There's no other place other than the Adult Therapy Center for that in the entire Caribbean. And because of cricket and my connection with cricket, I'll tell you, a lot of people got to know about me. And that is one of my success. I was always tied in with sports. And people knew me from that realm, and they knew exactly, well, I could go to Dr. Raj and I could get cured. I have patients from all over India, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, the entire Caribbean, North America, Suriname, Guyana. I have patients from all over. And I have patients who have heard about me from other people. And that's the best form of advertising.
Oh, yeah.
When you hear something from someone else.
And once you do something and it's successful.
That's what I tell you. But with success comes criticism. With success comes criticism. And with success comes jealousy.
Jealousy.
When somebody makes a negative comment about you, and they don't know you, they don't know anything about you. All they know is the character on radio. And I am a character on radio because, as I tell you, this is part of entertainment also. But the information that is given is correct. Dr. Raj gives you information, but we also have entertainment on the program. But don't expect that when you come in my office, it's the same person that you're going to meet. You're going to meet someone who is going to deal with you professionally. And the reason for that is that you want to know at the end of the day, you are going to be helped.
Yeah.
You don't want to come there and think that it is just a old talk. Because it is not. I take it very seriously.
Yeah, because some people might come to your office and carry on like if it's the program going on.
And you get that a lot also.
You will get
but I'll tell you something. We deal not only with sexual health, but we deal with health generally. Because as I told you, I had my issues with being paralyzed from my neck down. I had my issues with that. Even recently, I had health challenges with that. And I had to do certain things. And I did it. I did it on my own. Because I knew what I had to do. So when I was being encouraged to do certain things medically, I told the medical doctors and them, I said, no, I am not going to do that.
Anyway, folks, taking our time, it's now 10 o'clock in Trinidad and Tobago. You were listening to Sexplosion on Power 2.1 FM, and you're getting a lifestyle cover of the career of Dr. Raj Ramnanan here on Sexplosion this evening of Total Image and the Adult Therapy Center in St. James. Oh, St. Augustine. See the Saint have me trapped there. So we will continue with Dr. Raj, his career and his reviews. Stay tuned. We're going to come right back at you. Have this program tomorrow, boy. They take off this boy on a Thursday.
Who is that?
God.
Why?
They have a sponsored program.
Okay. What are you doing with Dr. Joe program? He ain't nothing, you know.
No, this boy spoiled this thing on. I don't know. This thing spoiled this thing on. I don't know. Here now, I don't know how they just handle this thing. They pull and you know. I just do like this, you know. Touch. They have to.
Yeah, this boy is I see this boy slamming it.
Shit.
Yeah, but if that's how it is, that's how it is.
Yeah, but then these things cost money. You know, you don't look
if that's how they just treat their own thing.
Yeah,
they don't care about that.
These things cost money.
They don't see that way.
There's money these things cost.
Let me see. From 4 to 7 p.m.
No, well, it's clear that the country is in a kind of decadent position.
And we break the stories before everyone else.
Shit, yeah.
Talking issues and making predictions.
it appears that the allegation against it is very cogent. And I realize everybody asking now who signed the non-disclosure form.
And they know that. They know that.
Attention.
So, to hear it before it happens, listen to the Power Team.
Oh, yeah.
Barrington, Skippy Thomas, and
Yeah,
Richard
that was,
Gilroy.
yeah.
For Richard wanted to see Smith do what he grew up seeing. And since he grew up seeing them doing it, they can't fire him.
From
Shit.
latest news on Power
He going
102. Empowering you.
Where's that?
He tomorrow night he going from 10 until 12. 2 hours. Every ending of the month, they pray for the nation.
Oh, who do that?
This fella here, gospel guy.
Wednesdays and Fridays from 9 p.m. on Power 102, empowering you. With the Doctor of Sex, Dr. Raj.
Hi, this is Dr. Raj. I am on Power 102 with Sexplosion and the Angel. It will be exciting once again.
Sexplosion with the angels.
Wednesdays and Fridays from 9 p.m. on Power 102, empowering you.
Well, taking our time is now 7 minutes after 10 o'clock inside Sexplosion on Power 102.1 FM with your host, Dr. Raj Ramnanan of Total Image and Adult Therapy Center, and you're listening to his lifestyle here of his career on Sexplosion here this evening, and I'm pretty sure it will enlighten some of you who had any doubts as far as what he does. Yeah.
So after spending my life, the better part of my life at Northeastern College, and I think gaining the trust and love of the majority of my classmates and whatnot, and to this day we still have this brotherhood and sisterhood.
That's great.
To this day. Met my wife there, started my educational process there at the library, Sangre Grande Public Library, going to university in Florida, going through the challenges that I went through physically and whatnot with accidents and whatnot. And I wanted to actually help people. The challenges with the gym, training people for years, sacrificing a lot of my own happiness to make sure they were happy. During the coup, I used to leave Sangre Grande and bring 5-pound bags of food, stuff, for all my bodybuilders.
Wow.
During curfew and every, we had a pass from the police to do that. And I used to come to Aruka and whatnot and make sure all of them had food and whatnot, because I knew that the coup will come and go, right? And they would have to compete. By the end of the year, they have to be representing Trinidad and Tobago. So my sacrifice was for Trinidad and Tobago. And my bodybuilders had to do well for Trinidad and Tobago. It was always about that red, white, and black. To this day, everything that I do is about red, white, and black.
Well, I know you have the tendency of counting country first.
Country always comes first with me.
First.
Always
I know
first.
that for a fact.
And that's what I do. My passion was there. And that is another thing that brings about a lot of envy and jealousy among people. They will have their ulterior motive with whatever they do, especially if they're dealing with things that are of a sexual nature. And they will extrapolate what they want out of it onto you. And they think that is what you want out of it.
Okay, yeah.
So they put themselves in your position and say, boy, if I was Dr. Raj, I would have been doing this, that, and the other, and whatnot. I have had people make passes at me and whatnot, and I would not ignore it, because I also know what it is like to face rejection. You don't want somebody to feel rejected. So you have to know how to let down that person lightly, and you have to know how to do things. You also have to know how to boost up the ego or the well-being of an individual so they feel good about themselves. A lot of it is persons lacking self-confidence. And I see that as a major issue in the country, because there are lots of young men and women out there who don't have that level of self-confidence. And we try to teach them that on the program. I have had persons come into my office to learn how to do those things. So it is always important to focus on what you want to achieve as far as humanity is concerned, as far as the country is concerned, and where you want to take things. Even speaking to persons now, and you tell them when government after government has spoken about medical tourism, I have had persons come from all over the world for treatment in Trinidad. treatment that you cannot get elsewhere.
Yep.
But you don't have the support of anyone for doing that. I'll give you an example. I've had patients come from Guyana, and they will refuse entry at the port of entrance at Piaco, and they come in for treatment. And I have to write letters to the immigration officer, and they will question my qualifications.
All that?
Yeah, that's why I tell you, you have no idea what I have gone through in life. No idea. Because I don't make it an issue. And I'll tell him, you want a question? If the Guardian newspaper, Express, who I have worked for, I've worked for the Express, CNC3, I had a television show there. If they don't check your background and your qualification, whatnot, you feel like you'll be doing a program on TV? But that's before, those things were before. And I told them, I said, Dr. Kim Johnson, right?
Yeah.
He came and did an interview, an article on me in the early 2000s because people were questioning, who is this guy? Who is this person teaching people about sex? I had a police officer come and rest a diary on my desk and he said, read that diary. I said, why? He said, everything you have done for the last 2 years is in that diary. Every single thing. Because you were under investigation. And I qualify for something that only about 20 people in Trinidad qualify for. That only the Commissioner of Police could give you. And I qualify for that. So all those persons who want to be my detractors and they want to talk me bad and what I watch them and laugh. I say what I have and what I qualify for, you could never qualify for that.
Yeah.
You could never qualify for that. And there's no idle boast.
No, that's a lifetime learning.
But it's no idle boast. That's what I tell people sometimes. When you question things about me, you have no idea what I have done. None. Absolutely none. There are persons who come and offer me money for certain things that I have achieved. And I look at them and say, money isn't everything. I don't need money. I say I need money to live and I need money. But I don't need money the way you think people need money, that you could pay money for something. No. And if a person comes to me for treatment and they pay $80,000 for in vitro, you think I'm going to tell them because you pay $80,000 you better pay me the same amount of money? I'll tell them I'll do it for you for less than 1/10 of what you pay. For 1/10 of what you have paid, I will do what I'm supposed to do for you, and you will be surprised. It is also not about money. It is about accomplishing certain things. And I put that to the forefront all the time. So even when a person comes, I've had patients who finished treatment with me 3 years ago and still comes to me every month just to sit down and talk to me and pay for that privilege. And they tell me, they say, I don't mind coming and pay to sit down and speak with you. Because we talk about all different things. But what I'm saying is that when you do those things, and I'm telling you, I'm saying these things now because a lot of persons sometimes, they listen to the program and they don't know who Dr. Raj is.
Yeah,
they don't know what I do.
Yeah.
And they formulate their own opinion in their mind and they think that this is who I am and they really don't understand what I really do. I'm about upliftment. How you uplift a person, because if you could make one person feel better about themselves every single day, at the end of the day, you're going to have a happier society and a better society.
Yes, you will. Anyway, folks, taking our time, it's now 13 minutes after 10 o'clock. Sexplosion on Power 2.1 FM. You're listening to the lifestyle and career of Dr. Raj here this evening on Sexplosion. They host of Total Image and the Adult Therapy Center out at St. Augustine, and I tell you, he treats all sexual dysfunctions in both male and female. Yeah.
Because, you know, sometimes you say that, but it doesn't stick in people's mind that is what I do. When you treat women for all sort of sexual dysfunction and the inability to reproduce. Now, reproduction is very important. So when you're dealing with individual with reproductive issue, you're doing a world of good. I remember I was criticized by one of a more prominent doctor in this country. I was criticized on television. And I was called by the very same television to do a rebuttal. And you know what I told them? I say, he's a doctor of high standard. Whatever he says, he knows what he's saying. I have nothing to say. You know what was my saving grace? When that very same doctor took his pen and recommended one of his clients to me. I still have that prescription. That very same doctor who was speaking ill about me on radio and television. That very same doctor met me in the United States and told me, "Sir Raj, you have so much information, it's unbelievable. I could get it published for you in medical journal." I said, "That is not my wish." That very same doctor, years after, and he hails me out now as though I'm more friend than him.
He's his best friend.
But he criticized me.
Yeah.
But I was not there about criticizing him or talking him bad or anything like that. That is not my aim.
Yeah,
You go ahead and say what you have to say. But I could prove you wrong. At the end of the day, my patients and my client will prove what I'm saying. So when I get one negative comment, I get about 50 positive comments. So which one I'm going to take? Only one negative comment when I have 50 positive comments? Come on, go to hell. Tell that person, whoever that person may be, whoever wants to call and make or criticize what I'm saying and whatnot, go to hell.
But you will always get people.
But you will get that
criticizing.
because
You will
with
always.
success come those things.
Oh yeah, you will always get somebody adding to something that is negative.
So that
to what
those
you
are the things that I face, the challenges. I remember one guy came and sat in front of me, listened to what I have to say about a particular way of treating premature ejaculation, and went and set up a clinic in Barataria. He didn't last a month. And he thought he could have come by me and get information each month and go back and in his clinic.
I remember that.
You remember that?
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
Right? Go back in his clinic and do the same thing. Tell people, regurgitate what I'm saying. But I don't have one way of treating someone.
If I remember correctly, as a matter of fact, he was going to a couple of houses in Barataria.
And telling people he's
and
Dr.
telling
Raj.
people he was Dr. Raj.
Yeah.
But
Because at the end of the day, your work speaks for itself. Your success speaks for itself. I am surprised sometimes with the places that I go. And when I mention my name, they, "Oh, you're Dr. Raj, I just listen to you." And you'll never think that person would listen to you. My wife and I just listen to you. We love your program. We like the education. I've learned so much from you. I have a child because of you. Persons have named their child and children after me.
yeah.
So that is where the success lies. And what I do at the Adult Therapy Center I work Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Wednesday I spend with my best friends. Every Wednesday as a rule, once I'm in Trinidad and Tobago, I spend it with my best friends. Persons who I've grown up with from 0 age till now. Take that.
Okay, we go to the lines. Hello and welcome to Sexplosion. Good evening. Hello.
Hello, good night.
Hi, good evening.
Good night.
Good evening.
Yes, I'm calling on the program, Dr. Raj. Well, my name is Justin. I'm from Charlieville. You might be familiar with me.
I know the voice, yes.
Right, well, as you're speaking about your program, I would like to say that I was thankful for the privilege for you having me to come and understand some of the stuff you do. And you know, it has helped me in my personal life. I know this is the opportunity just to say thanks.
Thank you very much, Justin. I appreciate that.
Enjoy your night, guys.
Okay, family.
And I remember when Justin came to me, he actually came to be an understudy to study what I was doing to write a paper for his school.
Okay.
Yeah, because he was in university and I was once in university and I had to write papers also. So I know what that was about and I took him under my wings.
Okay, we go back to the lines. Hello and welcome to Sexplosion. Good evening.
Good evening.
Pleasant good evening.
Good evening to my brother.
It is Zina.
Zina, how are you, my dear?
Original
I haven't heard this voice in so many years, Zina. Why have you...
And Yana, don't think that I don't be locked on, you know. I still want to get the youth a chance. Because here some of them people listening to 102 now. What does be doing up down Wednesday night? I still so all your fears. I might be old, but me a cold.
We know that for a fact.
Yeah, but hear what? Raj? I can't believe when you said that in like 10 years, but you know, I started 102.
I know that.
So when you say it's so long I listen to you, boy?
Yep.
Oh, God. Here now, I really heard of for all the years. Even though I was a senior person, I still learn a lot. I call my son and my daughter when you see, I say, listen to Dr. Raj. There's one program a night you did, and I say, oh, my son, I did not listen in the room playing TV, games. You know what? I asked you to repeat it, and I repeated it.
Right.
About the fracturing
Of the penis, yes.
You remember that program?
Yes, I remember when you asked me to repeat it.
Right. so and had them listen to you and I say, oh, you must continue to listen to Raj. And hear what, well, I hope I know it, I have no man out there asking about erectile dysfunction. Because you know that was your number one pick.
Well, that's the number one question that is asked.
Well, by now I think they'll learn. Anyhow, continue to do your good work. Look down and listen as usual. It's just that I do call. To answer the same questions over again and hear how you're going, but good program.
Thank you very much,
Keep up the
Gina.
good work, and God bless you and your brother there.
Yes,
All
Junior.
life to carry on, the work you're carrying on.
Okay.
Raj, I must ask you whenever I call you.
Sure.
What about that woman you brought, you know, at the Dr. Ramsey? She's still alive in the business, or by now she old and past that?
Which one of them?
What's a popular name?
Okay.
The star now.
Oh, Inari?
Yes.
She's still alive, but she's no longer in the porn business.
Right.
Yes. Yes, she's still around. She's still
All
around.
right, well, look down and listen.
Yes, thank
Have
you.
a good night.
All right.
Okay, family, thanks a lot for calling. 21 minutes after 10 o'clock, Sexplosion on Power 102.1 FM. You're listening to the lifestyle and career of Dr. Raj Ramnanan on Sexplosion. Yeah.
So when you have persons like that, with like Zina and others who have been part and parcel of this program for so many years, we have listeners who have grown up with this program. I have given out over 100 scholarships on this program for young persons to better themselves. I'm not saying this in a boastful way. I'm just saying it so that person know that I don't only receive, I give. And I give, and I continue to give. There are students who will come to me and say, I need to do a term paper. I remember once Melissa Sohan was in a class and she ran out of the class and she called me and she said, Raj, they're discussing you in my class. I said, did you tell them that you're responsible for my success? She said, no. I said, but let them know. Let them know that you are part and parcel of being there for me, being on the radio, so you are part of my success.
I remember those days. Yeah.
Yes, but those are the things that it is never me alone. It is because of you and Ruben and Chris and Tom. The other night I was reminding my wife about Tom.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about Asha Kamachi and Visionary Sounds. And I say, remember Tom, the leader of that band? He was my co-host at one time.
As a matter, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's the one that really started off Sexplosion with you.
Yeah. Because I was the only person that would do the nighttime program. He was the only person that will do the nighttime program because no one was brave enough. But the point is that there are others who were there for my success. Archangel, I will never forget what she has done for me.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Never forget that. She has done a tremendous amount of sacrifice on her own. That's why when she got her scholarship and things, and she asked me, what should I do? I said, go and take up on your scholarship. She said, but it means being away from you. I said, you go and live your life.
Yeah.
You make sure you do that.
She was
And
great.
I will tell you something. When we were building our home, my wife built a room for her,
She was
painted
great.
in her colors, and it's still there. Whenever she comes, she stays by us.
Yeah. Nice young lady.
Take that
Very
call.
nice. Hello and welcome to Sexplosion. Good evening. Hello. Hey,
Pleasant
Granny.
good evening. Yes, Granny, we catch the voice. Yes, we catch the voice. I said yes. Granny. Yes, dear, we know. Yeah, we know that.
But I thank God for you, and you educate yourself. You see, because some people will say you didn't have. And I got to hear you tonight that you explain because some people will say all kind of things. But you know, my time is past tense. But I listen to you, and I call you. I let you know where I'm there, and thank God for the first night I met you when it's your child.
Yes.
And you know,
Yes.
what the
Yeah. Thank you.
Family, it's always nice. It's always nice to hear from you.
Thank you. And that's it. 85 now. 85. Wow. When we met, wow. Yeah. Thank you very much. And that's part. And you're part of the 102 family. No, I'm not worried, but I'm glad. I am glad what. Thank you very much. Okay. You're listening from day one. We know that. And you're part of the 102 family. I want you to know that. But it's important what she said. The reason I'm doing tonight's program is because of a close friend of mine not knowing all what I do. And I realize that I take it for granted. My wife told me that. She said, you just take it for granted that people know.
No, but it's always good to update from time to time.
Of course.
So what we are going to do is go back to the lines. Hello and welcome to Sexplosion. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening.
Family.
Dr. Raj, thank you so much for informing us on all that education, things that we didn't know you inform us. But I want to ask you something.
Sure.
I am like a senior citizen here, and I got a switch here, and I am wearing a catheter. I want to know, like, you know, a doctor was telling me that I have to get counseling because my entire lifetime is a change.
Yes, yes.
Like having sex and all of that, and when I had it done the last day in January, and I had nothing, you know, and it opened, you know, bothered me, like, you know, what will happen, and it's something that, you know, I don't know how to think about it, and what to do, and how to think about it, because, you know, wearing a catheter is like, you know, something to like awkward and
Very awkward, and you have to get accustomed to it, and the psychological strain it will have on you, and sometimes you don't feel 100% as yourself. Those are the things that are going to affect your mind. Now, I don't want you to talk your personal business on the air. If you can give me a call at the office. Call me on my cell phone, and we'll discuss it. I will talk you through it, and I'll help you with that.
thank you, sure, but you will repeat your number, so I'll write it
Sure,
down and I'll
sure.
talk to you about it.
I will do that.
And thank you so much for understanding, Dr. Raj.
You're welcome, my dear.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks a lot for calling. Yeah. Okay. Then.
And the number is 740-1961. Junior, when a person goes through transformation medically,
Yeah.
like say, for example, you get diabetes, and you having sexual dysfunction associated with diabetes, it affects you mentally, you know. It will affect you mentally. It affects how you operate. It affects the things that you do. That's why health is very important. Losing weight, maintaining a good weight for your height is also important. All those are the things that we used to do at the gym, and it transferred into the sexual part and the treatment. So persons have to understand that.
Okay, we're going to go back to the lines. Hello and welcome to Sexplosion. Good evening.
Yes, family.
Hey, family. Yeah. Yeah.
You must find one idiot in this set, and that's what we are talking about. You'll have 5 or 6 persons calling and saying something positive, and one stupid fool, and that's just life. You have persons out there who are uneducated, and I'm not talking about, they may have degrees, you know, but it's stupid. They don't have common sense. There are persons out there who I know who they're very highly educated, but they have no common sense whatsoever. None. They don't even know how to use a spoon properly because they have no common sense. And you have to put up with the bad. And lots of time that's what we have to do. That's a lots of time. Sometimes you meet persons and they will challenge you with a question, and you look at them and say, "That's what you're going to ask me?" You think you really think that I'm going to answer that? But they want to prove themselves and they want to be macho in front of their friends and whatnot. And I will just hit them something, and their friends will turn around and laugh at them.
They want a gallery?
Yeah, they want a gallery themselves, as we say.
Yeah.
So they will do that. But again, I am very quick-witted. You know. I'm very quick to come up with an answer.
Oh, you are.
And I will hit you under the belt. Anytime. I will hit you under the belt in such a hard way that you'll be spinning.
Right. Anyway, folks, taking our time, it's now 29 minutes after 10 o'clock inside Sexplosion on Power 102.1 FM with your host, Dr. Raj Ramnanan of Total Image and the Adult Therapy Center out at St. Augustine. And you're listening to a very special Sexplosion edition this evening. You are getting the lifestyle and career of Dr. Raj Ramnanan exclusively on Power 102.1 FM. Yeah.
Pleasant good evening to the Narayan family in Sangre Grande, all my cousins who are listening, cousin children who are listening. Pleasant good evening to you. I'm not going to call each one by name. To all my family members who listen to all over the world, and of course in Trinidad and Tobago, pleasant good evening to you. So, my challenge, even I had challenge with family. You know, I had family who stopped talking to me when I started doing this. You know.
Oh, is that right?
Close family members who will not speak to me anymore because the first thing they said, I was bringing the family name into disrepute.
Because of the...
Yeah, but one thing I have to say is that I have never brought any of the family name into disrepute because my last name is not our last name, our family last name. Oh. My last name is my grandfather's first name.
Okay. Oh.
So I have never brought our family name into disrepute. So for them, they tell me that, I say them that, and they just like, okay, you always have, according to my mother, you have a plaster for every sore. But it's a fact.
Yeah, you get a little drag on when you mention something.
How could I bring my family name into disrepute when I don't use my family last name?
It don't add up.
It doesn't add up?
No, it don't add up.
Well, right.
No.
So how am I bringing any name into disrepute? Because unless you tell somebody it's my family. So, of course, I had family members who stopped speaking with me and whatnot. After many years, they came around and they say, I got a call from one person saying, if I invite you home, would you come? I said, of course.
You see, I think one of the reasons for that is that when you look back in those days that you're speaking about, and as you rightfully mentioned in the past, when you mentioned the word sex. And especially with
taboo.
With the older generation, you know.
But this wasn't an older generation. This was somebody who grew up with me as a sister.
Yeah, but because...
But again, it is because of my topic and what I was doing on radio. And I was telling my staff recently, I say, if my mother comes on the air, which she sometimes listens to the program, I'll tell her, Sitaram, and I continue doing my program. I don't change my program because my mother is listening.
Well, I know
she has to make a choice whether she wants to listen or not.
Well, I have noticed that in the past.
But it's a fact. I wouldn't change my tune. I am who I am.
Yeah.
And every member of my family knows that. I am who I am and I'm not going to change for anyone. The only person I have changed for is my wife to make her happier. I have changed my ways and whatnot to make my wife happier because if she sees something wrong about me or something that is affecting her in whatever way, she will tell me about it and I will try my utmost best to change because it makes my wife happier. Because at the end of the day, I am going to grow old with my wife and I'm going to spend the rest of my life with my wife. No one else. My children will come and go. They will have their own life. Right? My parents would not be here. My uncles and aunts would not be here, but I will spend the rest of my life with my wife. So why would I make anybody else happy but my wife? And she has never yet told me, I don't want you talking about sex. I don't want you being on radio. I don't want you lying with girls. I don't want you doing this. I don't want you doing that. She has never yet told me that. The day she tells me it, it stops. Because then I realize it's affecting her. But as long as it doesn't affect her, I am happy. My children has never said that, Daddy, we don't want you doing that.
Yeah.
And that is important to me. So I don't have to answer to any other person out there. If you don't like who I am, if you don't like what I do, turn the radio off, come off of social media and go and sleep. Because you cannot do what I'm doing. You're incapable of doing that. You cannot educate someone. You cannot inform them.
You cannot educate an educator.
So, at the end of the day, you are wasting time criticizing me or being angry at what I do. You're wasting energy.
Yeah.
I am who I am, and that's not going to change.
And nobody's going to change you. Anyway, folks, taking with 25 minutes before 11 o'clock. Sexplosion on Power 102.1 FM with your host, Dr. Raj, Ramnanan of Total Image and the Adult Therapy Center out at St. Augustine, where he do treat all sexual dysfunctions in both male and female, and you're getting a lifestyle and a career of Dr. Raj on this evening's edition of Sexplosion. Yeah.
The persons who I respect the most throughout my life, apart from my grandparents who are all now deceased, my godfather and my father, right? And my mother, of course. My parents, I should say. And they have never, as a matter of fact, my dad used now he goes to sleep early, but he used to listen to the program and he will ask me about certain things. We will have chats about it. We will talk about things, sexual and whatnot, and we could have that rapport. But I never grew up in an environment with my father where I fear him. I love my father. And we could sit down and talk about anything. Same thing with my mother.
That's the most important thing, eh?
So if the persons who are most important to me, my mother, my father, my wife, and my 2 children, they are the most important things to me. Nothing else. Nothing else. If they are not affected by what I'm doing, and they are not unhappy with what I'm doing, I'm here to educate, I'm here to inform, I'm here to help people. I'm in my clinic doing my work. My secretary sometimes is in shock when she asks my wife does ask my secretary permission to knock on my door. It's like, in their mind is, I wouldn't do that. If I want to go in my husband's office, I'll just open the door. My wife will never do that. She wouldn't disrespect anybody and do that. But that has a level of respect and a level of responsibility that goes with it. There are some persons out there who can't handle that. They can't handle their own home. They can't even make their own home into a home. They have a house, but they don't have a home. They have a wife, but they don't have a loving wife. They have children, and they have children who they can't even speak with. At 82 years of age, I could have a conversation with my father on anything.
Beautiful, beautiful, I tell you. Anyway, what we are going to do is go back to the lines. Hello and welcome to Sexplosion. Good evening. Hello, good evening. Okay, this one seems to be playing. So get back.
So I made a conscious effort to do these things to make sure I am successful at whatever I'm doing, and it was my choice. I was not forced to do it. No one ever took it upon themselves to be a sex educator in this country. I did that when everyone else, when we were going to school in our time, wanted to be a doctor, a lawyer, engineer. Nobody wanted to be a sanitation worker. Nobody wanted to be a person working in LHA. Nobody wanted to be that. They wanted to be something of importance. I wanted to be a sex educator. And I studied that. And I made a career out of it. And not only when it comes to sex education, but also in helping people to achieve what they want to achieve with their family life. And I sit here from time to time speaking with persons to let them know that it is important for you to build your family life. It is important for you to make sure you take care of your children. It is important to make sure that you take care of your family. Because at the end of the day, you have a responsibility towards your wife and your children. And you must do that. So I do that constantly on this program. I make sure people understand that the value, and I practice what I preach. There are lots of persons out there who stand up on a pulpit and preach certain things, and they're doing something totally different, you know. I practice what I preach. I let people know I deal with sex, and I deal with beautiful women, and I deal with all kind of things, and that's who I am. I'm not going to change that. Nothing is going to change that. So, at the end of the day, I am who I am, and I'm truthful to myself. Because I'm not going to put on an air, and I'm not going to pretend to be what I'm not. And I'm not going to fool anyone. I'm not going to do that. I am who I am.
And nothing can change that.
And nothing's going to change that.
Nothing's going to change that.
So when we sit in this radio station week in, week out, day in, day out, Wednesdays and Friday, talking about sex, educating people, giving them all the information, helping people with all their issues. Nobody does it for free. I do it for free. I've been doing it for free for 18 years on this program. giving out information freely, telling people what to do, to take care of themselves, giving formulas and whatnot. I have a formula coming to, the same thing I was talking about, cleaning out your arteries and whatnot. I have a formula coming for that. My friend, who is 73 years of age this year, has come up with that formula, put it in a pill form, a capsule form, and she's putting it up for sale in the next 2 weeks. It's going to be launched in the next 2 weeks, and it will be available here. So all these things, when I tell people about controlling their cholesterol, we have things for that. We deal with that. And it's not only about I selling you something. I'm giving you all this information for free. And I'm telling you what you can do for free. Because at the end of the day, people are going to remember you by what you have done.
That's correct.
There are persons who have died. And when you ask what contribution they've made for society, they're like, I don't know. You know. They can't tell you one contribution they've made. But if you have made contribution to change people's lives, to make their life better, tell them enjoy something that you're supposed to be enjoying, which is sex, and your relationship with your partner, we're going to forget you.
No, you wouldn't have forgotten.
No, because your legacy lives on. And that's the important fact. Your legacy will live on. You know, persons will come and say, but that man used to give us free information. Where are we getting that now? That's why when I took my sabbatical from radio, and the amount of calls I used to be getting and messages, why are you not on the air? Why? I don't like television. Honestly, I don't like television. Television does a lot for you, but television needs a lot more preparing because it's live. And it's recorded, so you're there. You have to make sure there's things that are directed and produced and whatnot. Radio is not that way.
There's no room for mistake on television.
No, there's no room for mistake on television. Correct. Right? I could come here, I may not even have on a pants. I could be here in a jockey shorts with a shirt on top. But you can't do that with television. Right? So I like radio. I love what it does. I love what it is I'm doing. What is the qualification of being a sex educator? Become a sexologist. Learn, and learning sexology is not about reading books. It is practical. 90% of my work was practical. Is practical, not was, is. It still is practical. When you do sex therapy and sex consultation, that's something that is total. A lot of people don't even know what sex. I see the Guardian run an article about somebody from Belgium who does sexual consultation at Trinidadian. But we do that in Trinidad. We do that in Trinidad right here. It's a big deal when somebody say that they're from another country and they're doing it.
You know,
but we've been doing that in Trinidad for years, donkey years.
That is a word attitude when you're dealing with news coming from the
outside.
Compared to news that you're
doing it right here, but they have to write an article about somebody from outside of here.
Yeah.
It's like when somebody, one of the newspapers running, well, no, I did a lot of newspaper articles and whatnot. As a matter of fact, my articles used to sell out the newspaper. That was a fact, proven fact. And I see they take in information now from foreign doctors and whatnot. They never used to pay me. I used to do it free. But of course, if you're taking information from a foreign doctor, you have to pay them.
Well, yeah.
But here they will not want to do that. Again, you are not even recognized in your own country at times.
Well, it's a bit selfishness, you know.
Yeah. So you have individuals here who will look upon somebody from outside to get a quotation from them or get some information from them when you have it right here in Trinidad.
Yeah.
Right here. And they themselves wouldn't even know to pick up the phone. But of course, there are individuals who work in the press and whatnot. They call me on every little thing. They call me and ask my opinion and advice and things. And they write that. I have to say thanks to them. But there are some persons out there who don't even know I exist. But again, it's ignorance.
Yeah. But then again, when you throw the ball back in your court, who cares? As long as your family...
Well, at the end of the day...
not worried about what's happening with you and your career. That's the most important thing.
At the end of the day, I have given myself a mandate that I must educate, I must inform, I must make sure that persons out there have all the information that they need. And I'd like to let you all know that the program will be wrapped up in the next 3 minutes. So for those of you who want to call or send your text messages and whatnot, please do so. I have something to attend to at 11, so I want to make sure I don't miss that.
Well, for those of you who would love to interact with Dr. Raj, feel free. Our lines are open at 222-8255, also at 612-8255. You're listening to Sexplosion on Power 2.1 FM on this special edition, the career and lifestyle of Dr. Raj Ramnanan, your host of Sexplosion and your host at the Adult Therapy Center out at St. Augustine. Yeah.
Dr. Raj don't take out people. They cannot do what you are doing, but they're quick to condemn you. Tell them to come and do what you're doing. They can't even know where to start, and they cannot talk people like free things. Tell them to come and pay their money. They ain't coming. Well, it's not all about. I absolutely love the profile pic. Thank you very much. Good night to you. Love the new look. Okay, thank you very much. Nicole, how are you? Chanel, good night, Dr. Raj. What you are saying is so true, love, because I have gained so much knowledge, and personally I am not financially equipped to gain knowledge as I wanted, but thanks to you and your program, I am tremendously amazed of the knowledge and expertise, and I can even tell others of the information that you graciously share. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you for everything that you taught me. Keep up the great work. This is from, I think, Miss Smith. And good night to you, sir. So, it's important for me at the end of the day that when I rest my head on my pillow, I can fall asleep.
You can have a comfortable night rest.
I fall asleep without batting an eye. I don't have to worry about people. I have nothing in my closet that I have to worry about. I am totally happy with what I do and how I do my
Well, that's
stuff.
the most important thing, eh?
And I have a loving family who supports me all the way, and that also is very important.
And I know for a fact that you enjoy what you do.
I love what I do.
I know that for a fact. Hello and welcome to Sexplosion. Good evening. Hello, good evening. Hello. Okay.
And with that, folks,
Hello?
that's my cue. It's the end of the program tonight. I must thank you very much for being part of the program, for giving me the opportunity to let you know who I am, what I do, what my background is all about. And I hope one day, I can meet each and every one of you.
Yeah, that's
and I know I do meet individuals who listen to the program, watch the program, and they do come and tell me that they do listen to the program or watch the program, and I'm very grateful and thankful for that. I cannot be who I am without you all. I must say that.
Beautiful, beautiful. Beautiful
I cannot be who I am.
Well, I've known you
and
for 18
Junior,
years.
I must thank you very much for putting up with me for all these years and being part of the program also, and I hope we could continue this for another 18
It's always
years.
a pleasure sitting down here with you 2 nights a week.
Yes.
There's no two ways about it.
So, good night, folks.
You've been listening to Sexplosion on Power 2.1 FM, the lifestyle and career of Dr. Raj Ramnanan.